All right, hey everybody, and welcome back to another live episode of Super Data Brothers from Coalesce 2023. I am here with one of our all-time favorite guests, Santona Tuli. Welcome back to the show, Santona.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. You are the best host that I've been with. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You're here at the conference with Upsolver. How is the conference going so far for you guys?
It's been a lot of fun. I gave my talk today on scaling up DBT models. I really enjoyed that. The conversations that I've been having have been fantastic. I'm really impressed by the number of data practitioners, analytics practitioners that are here and just eager to learn DBT best practices, data engineering best practices, and just learn what's out there. As far as Upsolver, I think we're very happy with the folks we've spoken to. And I can speak to Upsolver a little bit if you want.
Yeah, tell us about Upsolver. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so we're about moving data from prod to analytics or any other downstream use cases. Right now at DBT, we're mostly talking about the analytics component, but you want to extract value from your production data. We strongly believe that third-party SaaS data is great, but production data is extremely important. It's well differentiated, and we help you get it out of prod, put it in wherever it needs to go. And so there are two main types of data that come out of prod: CDC, change data capture on your databases, and then events that are triggered in your product that flow through some sort of streaming engine. So we're very good at both of those.
That is such an important thing to focus on, I think, because so many tools out there are like, yeah, we're going to bring all your SaaS apps together, right? And we'll stream data from your SaaS or move data in batch from your SaaS apps into Snowflake and that sort of thing. But like, what sets you apart as a company is not the data that you're pulling out of Salesforce, right? It's the data that you're generating internally that is unique to you.
Yep. Yeah, couldn't agree more with that. And I mean, the other data is important.
It's important. Yeah, it's not that it's unimportant, but
exactly. Yeah,
right.
But it's the same set of questions that you'll always ask and answer, right? Like different companies, they're always interested in like how many clients do we have, what's the churn risk, et cetera, et cetera. Like even as a data scientist. I like working with that data, but I'm also very eager to like move on to what's the new data that I can work with, you know?
Right. Right. Yeah, that's cool. So let me ask you. One of the reasons I wanted to make sure we talk to you is I feel very confident that you'll have an enlightening answer to this question. But so there's this idea, of this phrase that you see floating around. The people who follow me on LinkedIn or watch the show will know that I talk about it with some frequency. And the phrase is analytics as code. Okay, and this is an idea that I think. Here at DBT Coalesce, for analytics engineers or data engineers, this is not an unfamiliar concept, but in the BI world, where I am, it is a little unfamiliar. This is a new term. In BI, we've spent the last 15 years trying to get out of doing code. And so now this idea of analytics as code comes around, and so could you help us understand, what does that term mean? And why should anybody care about it?
Yes, absolutely. So I think I want to make 2 points. One is why I like the concept of XYZ as code. And then the second point is why there is a line to draw. At some point it's overkill.
Yeah.
And I would probably put BI in that second bucket. I think that it is super important for less technical folks to be able to look at data, answer questions with data, understand data. And I don't fully believe in just giving fully baked out dashboards or reports to the folks that want to get an understanding from data. I think it's very important to include them in the conversation as well.
Yes.
And yes, if you can go back and forth and iterate and then supply a dashboard, that's fine too. But another thing that I've found a lot of value in is just, what data sets are you interested in? What columns do you actually want to see? Because not everyone just wants a plot, right? They want to be able to run their own queries on the data. So I think that's important as well. And I don't want to make someone have to raise a PR and sort of go through.
Absolutely, yeah. Business person, no.
Exactly. So that brings me to what actually is X as code. So let's talk about analytics as code. I said this we were recently on a panel together. Thank you for being
Yeah,
on
yeah.
it.
Oh, you're welcome. It was a lot of fun. Check it out on the Upsolver LinkedIn
Yes.
channel. I don't know what you call them. On the Upsolver LinkedIn.
Yes. And we were talking about this analytics as code, and I made this point that it's really analytics as configuration. And I think it's an important distinction to make, not because one is better than the other, but because when you say something as code, that also has a risk of scaring some people away,
Yes.
or like really saying like you have to know this language or this programming paradigm in order to take part in it, which is really, that's not what DBT is about. That's not what these frameworks are about.
Right.
There are some software engineering practices that we try to borrow from, such as version controlling and raising PRs and stuff. And the reason that we do that is just to have more process around these analytics assets or data assets. And that's important. So one of the things that DBT has done, right, for the analytics world is brought us out of worksheets in Snowflake or XYZ tool, where our queries would live sort of isolated, and we'd run them ad hoc. We'd be like, hey, John, can you get me that answer again, updated? And then John would have to go and run it and then provide it. And now it's more, okay, it's a query that the team owns, not just one person. It's versioned, it's saved, and it's either running automated on something, or anyone can go and run it and sort of get the answers. So that's the strength. But it's important to remember that you're not writing the query over and over again. It's the part that you're actually doing is you're taking that query, you're checking it in, and now it's part of this whole process where you change a few different parameters here and there in order to have the model, the transformations running, right? So that's why I say it's config, because what we're working with is YAML type or some sort of configuration.
Yeah.
And that's a positive thing, because you don't really want to be writing a whole bunch of code either to answer business questions. So yeah, it's a tightrope, I think, to walk. I think we should be excited about this idea of putting everything in processes,
right,
but also to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt and say, okay, we're not putting up a barrier, we're not trying to make this all technical or anything like that.
100%. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing, like at Good Data, we are bringing the analytics as code concept to BI, but where we draw the distinction is like, that is for the data builders, right? Like, you can define things as in YAML and in Good Data. We have a Python SDK, React libraries and all that sort of stuff, right? But that's one thing I think BI people need to understand, is that what it doesn't mean is that you're going to go to someone in marketing and say, okay, now it's time for you to learn Python, in order to generate your time series. Right. Certainly if they want to, that's great, right? But that's not really the point. The point is to bring more, reproducibility, software engineering type practices to data. And I think in that, I mean, just look around at this conference. I think it's obviously been successful. Awesome. So what? Do you see people I'm curious. Do you see do we still have a long ways to go in terms of adoption of this way of thinking? And is it possible to take it too far?
The second one, yes, absolutely yes. I am always worried about over-engineering and teams over-engineering solutions. And when you get into this mindset of we're going to try to map everything from software engineering into data, you're going down the wrong path, and that can quickly escalate to you have to cherry pick. To be honest, you have to cherry pick what makes sense to pull from software engineering, because software engineering has had a long time to develop itself, try things, and figure out what works, what doesn't work, and now it's more established, right? But data and software are not the same, right? You're talking about a different kind of asset with different constraints. So yeah, I think for me the biggest risk is trying to map everything together, and then over engineering solutions. And then your first part of the question was?
Oh, geez, what was it? Like just kind of where are we in the adoption of this way of thinking? I mean, is it still early on, or would you say this has become the primary way of working?
Yes, I would say we're still early on. But I think we've seen from DBT adoption that people are excited about it, and again, it's the initial value that it brought was pretty significant. I am unsure about how it scales or how it will scale in the future. So they made some exciting announcements at the keynote, but. I'm not seeing anything too visionary, and maybe that's just, okay, we're waiting for more adoption. Let's get more people on board with this, and then we'll see where we can take it from here. But again, I'm excited to see all the people who are just here to learn and understand how to do DBT better, analytics as code better. And we have to keep in mind that analytics engineer is this term that we've sort of coined, or DBT has helped coin, and it brings the engineer onto the analyst sort of. And I get it, but also there's nothing wrong with being a data analyst that is likes low code or no code solutions and just understands data really well and has a really good understanding of the business and knows statistics. So it's everything's a balance.
and I think that last point about knowing the data, understanding the business, understanding statistics, knowing what metrics are relevant. That is the most important thing in my mind that any data practitioner can have outside of the situations where someone is truly in his seat, where your job is just to solve the most hardcore technical issues. Although even then, I would argue, how do you know how to solve them if you don't understand why people are using them or for what? And so, one of my favorite, the crowd is actually my favorite thing about this conference. It's very practitioner heavy. It's people who want to learn. It's if you were to compare it to an AWS reInvent or God forbid an IBM conference that I've been to in the past, which it's the whole point of the conference is to close deals. It doesn't feel that way here. I mean, the deal closing is obviously good, but this is really I think it's a testament to DBT as a company and the community they've built. And I am curious. I have heard from some of the attendees, and my feeling watching the keynote was that DBT is maybe beginning the transition to be more of an enterprise-focused company. Like the new features that were announced, yes, there were good features for individual engineers to make their lives better, but a lot of it seemed to be about solving bigger, more complicated problems that are more likely to exist at bigger companies. And I'm just curious if you picked up on that vibe or not.
Yeah, a little bit. Although I think, to me, everything that was announced made sense. And it was almost like, why don't we have these already?
I know.
Kind of thing. So especially for sort of inter-project communications, right? Like having multi-projects. I think that has been long due. So I'm excited to see, in that sense, like the usability and use cases that DBT can support grow, whether it's in for an enterprise or a smaller startup. I think everyone has, well, maybe not everyone, but typically you'll have a lot of different data places where data live and engines that need to that you need to work with. And if you're really going for a tool that's easy to use and you want all of your analytics engineers to spend all of your time in that tool, then we absolutely have to extend it to in various ways. So that was what my talk was on, actually, is shifting left of the analytics workflow. So why can't we use DBT for ingestion also? Why does it have to be transformation only?
Yeah. That's a good question. How did you answer that?
So we built a DBT connector with DBT Core for Upsolver. So you can just pip install DBT Upsolver, and then you need a Upsolver account, so which you can get a free account, and then use the API authentication. And now you can write a DBT model that actually reads from, for example, Postgres or Kafka and writes to Snowflake. You don't have to worry about making the connection in a different place. You don't have to go into the Upsolver UI at all. You're just writing a DBT model, but you're just saying this is a source, this is a target, and do these quality checks or something like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. So check out Upsolver, by the way. Big fans of theirs here at Good Data and at the Super Data Brothers show. All right, so I think that pretty much covers it. Last thing, I ask everybody this. What piece of advice do you have for a young person or someone who's young person entering the data field, or maybe someone who's looking to transition into data from some other career? What piece of advice do you have for that sort of person?
I think you gotta have fun doing it. So let's talk about motivation for a second. Like, why do you want to get into data? Right?
Yeah.
If you enjoy working with data, perfect. I don't want to gatekeep. I don't think anyone should be gatekeeping. It's a lucrative field. The pay is pretty good and all of that. But I really think that anyone can transition into data. It's all about wanting to solve problems and actually enjoying working with data. It can be hard in today's market to actually make that transition.
Yes.
So the real advice that I have, and I've held true to this for 3-4 years, is network. Meet people, talk to people, learn from people. I've had countless coffee chats where, no other agenda. I'm not asking for a job. I'm not. It's just I want to know what you do so that I understand what the profession is better. That's it's helped me a lot. Networking has really paid off. I can't speak too much to doing projects and building up a portfolio that way. I did a kind of a transition from academia to industry, but I was working with data for 5-6 years before that. So it was very transferable for me. So I didn't need a separate portfolio, but I had something to talk to. So that's the other important thing. If you're coming from software or some other field, find the bits of the work that you're doing already that would transfer to the data profession and speak to those things.
Absolutely. I think the networking piece, it's advice you hear all the time, but it's so critical to be able just to be out there. And like you said, people want to talk.
Yeah.
Like they really do. If you reach out to someone and you're like, hey, can we just have coffee over Zoom for 10 minutes and just say hi? I won't say no to that if you're someone out there looking to enter the data field who wants to do that. So great advice. All right, Santona, where can people follow you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty mono-channel, so I'm on LinkedIn, and I love connecting with people.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show again. It's always a pleasure to have you. And stay tuned to the Super Data Brothers channel. We will have more interviews from DBT Coalesce coming to you throughout the day. So, thank you again, Santona, and take care, everybody.
Bye.